This is In Touch with Terri, a power-packed podcast for the medical aesthetics industry.
I just discovered your podcast, and I feel like I've hit a gold mine.
She's our inspiration.
This is someone who's got a lot of knowledge. She's been there, done that.
Terri Ross is a former Fortune 500 executive, international speaker, founder and CEO of Terri Ross Consulting, and co-founder of the 4S Summit, a sales and business mastery workshop for aesthetic professionals.
Terri is always approachable, always there for you.
It's nice to have somebody in your corner that can say, I got it.
In Touch with Terri will bring you solutions to increase operational and employee efficiency and practice profitability. Plus, feature some of the top industry experts as guests.
Terri, your courses and your podcast are just so helpful.
She made me feel like I could do this.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Now, here's Terri.
Hey, tribe, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of In Touch with Terri. So before I just kick it off and launch into my amazing guest today, by the way, from the Netherlands, I want to leave you with a question. How much money do you actually think that you're leaving on the table in your practice because patients are not educated about financing or payment solutions? I'm going to say, as you'll hear me change my tone throughout this, or because they didn't say yes in the moment, or maybe because they even got denied. So as you guys know, and if you don't know, please welcome to the podcast. You guys are in my tribe now. I'm really excited to have you here. But if you don't know what Terri Ross Consulting does, we are a healthcare consulting firm. At the end of the day, helping practices be efficient and make money. So today's podcast is really important to me. It's something that I am passionate about. I have a visceral response about. I think it's underutilized. I think practices are uneducated about it. And I have an amazing guest with me who's become a very dear friend of mine in a short period of time because he's a true badass. And his name is Yehuda. Is it Matar? Do I say your last name
That's
right?
totally correct, yes. Thank you, Terri, for having me here.
Oh my God, you're so welcome. And you guys are going to love him just as much as I do. But I want to preface this phrase. So I asked how much money is being left on the table, roughly 20 to upwards of 40% or more, because your patient solutions in your practice it's not about selling. It's not about making people feel awkward. It's not about you having a notion they don't want it or they're wealthy and it's offensive. That is all bullshit. You guys, I keep it real. It's candidly about access. It's about how do you bridge the gap between patients coming in your door that you acquired, by the way, and to their desire to say yes. So I met Yehuda. I think you guys always know I'm always, I don't pay to play, and I look for partners that support what TRC does and how can I bring solutions to practices because I equally believe in it. So Yehuda is the business development manager. What are you? VP? I mean, he's all the things at Ottri. And if you haven't heard of it, we're going to dive into it. You're not going to want to miss this episode. It is a patient financing platform, but it is a patient solutions platform that helps give practices access, listen to me, to multiple lenders, okay? Multiple lenders through a one single site application, which is again why I preface platform, allowing more of your patients to get approved and for you guys to be allowed more treatments to move forward, which ultimately is more revenue for you. Yehuda has an incredible background. We're going to dive into that. I won't do it justice, but he spent the past decade sort of at the intersection between tech and business. He's moved from Google to fintech to startups, and he's now really working on honing in partnerships and negotiating with lenders to ensure that businesses and practices like yours and clients ultimately achieve better outcomes, not just through marketing. Yehuda, again, I mentioned he's in the Netherlands. He's got a beautiful wife who's equally smarty pants, finishing her PhD, and 2 young girls, 4 and 7, which I love. So Yehuda, thank you to the show. I'm so happy that you're here, and thank you that it's 1:00 in the morning and you wanted to spend your, middle of the night with me and the tribe today.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me, and I wouldn't miss a chance to sit with Terri Ross, the boss.
I love it. So let's dive in. Before we even get into who and what is Ottri, I think it's really important. You and I have had enough conversations to know that I think the industry, with all love, you guys, but ignorant when it comes to maybe financing or how it works or the benefit to a practice and what it actually means and what's left on the table. And can you just clarify from your perspective, even of this very 30,000 foot overarching, why is it so important to a practice and what does it actually really mean?
The economy, the ever-changing cost structure, and especially the move to the need for loyalty with your patients has led to the importance of treatment plans. If you want to retain your patient and have that relationship where they come back in, those one-time visits, not knowing when they will come back, is just not the way to go for scale, right? Financing is just that access that you said. It's closing that gap, right? People just want to pay the way they prefer. And I'm not saying this because I'm assuming it. It's because this is data from a survey that was done, right? Saying that 89% patients said they prefer to use financing than to delay their treatment. While AmSpa statistics show that 35% of patients are even offered financing at all. That is the massive gap between what your patients are obviously demanding and what most clinics out there are currently doing. So the very basic response here is, first of all, there's the need in the market, you're not answering it, right? First and foremost. But then you're not only losing a specific patient or even a single treatment of that patient, right? Because if they want that treatment enough and your competitor is offering the payment option that they need, then maybe they're less premium or less luxury, but they're getting it done.
Yeah.
And if they give them a good experience, they'll come back to that clinic again because they know both that they had a good experience, but also that they can access what they want at the price they need and the structure of payments that they need.
And you just gave some pretty powerful, some numbers, you guys. I want to reiterate that real quick. You just said that 89% prefer to use financing and about 35% or less are even being offered it. And let that sit with you for a moment as you think about your practice, your revenue, your profit, your retention, your conversions. You mentioned treatment plans, which is what, I'm very passionate about. So if we can, before we just get into Ottri and why it's different and the platform, I'd love for the tribe to learn a little bit more. You have a very impressive background. Why are we on this? Why, it's really important. Why are we here today talking about this? And how did you get here? Because you have a really great story to tell.
Yeah, my degrees in education and my career began in educational tourism. I would bring groups to my homeland, Israel, and show them around for a week or a month. And next time you're in the area, Terri, then we'll plan one for you. Money always scared me. And with the move to a job in tech and then in fintech, and because COVID basically shut down the ability to work in tourism, and I self-educated on finance, and due to personal need, because we just bought a home and took a mortgage that basically depleted everything that we saved up. So financially, I had a personal drive to understand what system I need to deal with in order to stay afloat and take care of the family financially. And I understood that financial education worldwide is lacking. And while you could solve that in the long term with better education, in the short term, with better transparency and better tools and better access, you can still help people tap into the potential of what the financial system can give them. And a lot of people are just not tapping into because it's scary, complex, confusing, and something that they were taught is something that they shouldn't really know too much about. They should just pay their tax advisor and cough up the cash and give them the documents they need. So trying to democratize that with my background in education and my passion to basically share what I've learned with the world and try to impact it there is what led me today, I would say, and why I'm so excited about what we're doing at Ottri, because it feels like a culmination of many years of various aspects building up to that.
That was lovely. Thanks for sharing. I think I want to start with this question because I know that if my fabulous tribe is listening to this, I know in your head right now, you're sitting there listening and going, well, I already have it. I have Elfion, I have Care Credit, I have Cherry, I have whatever you're using or not. So I know that you're sitting with that going, oh, this is like another thing. Well, you guys know I love you. Would I be having a podcast with somebody in the Netherlands at 1:00 in the morning with a firm that I thought was just the same? You guys know me better than that. I would not be wasting my time either. I'm here because this is going to be a game changer. It's a game changer for me personally, to be honest. So let's dive in. Yehuda, tell us a little bit about Ottri, why Ottri as a company and as a platform, and then we'll dive into the differences.
Definitely. So Ottri is not a lender. We're a technology platform. Every lender has their shticks and how they work, their processes, their platforms. And many or most financing savvy clinics will be using at least two, because you need care credit. If your patient goes into the door and says, I have a care credit card, that's how I want to pay, you're not going to say no. And then if they don't have that, you want to offer the likes of Cherry or Patient Fi, or I know clinics that use all four, right? And so on, and try to offer whatever they can, which is the right thing to do in the sense of giving flexibility, right? And giving choice. But that is a overhead nightmare, first of all, for the staff to learn and train and understand each system differently and log in and log out and download. And that really, really impacts the visibility. If we were together at 4S Summit at Arizona recently, and we asked the owners there what their approval rate is, right? How many of their patients are actually getting approved? And they didn't know, because they need to download those Excels from 5 different places and understand what's going on. But it's much more than that, because the customer experience, right? The patient experience of walking into that clinic and getting the consultation and knowing that they want the treatment, and then reaching that number sticker shock and saying, you know what, I'm going to try to get financing. And they apply once and they get declined in front of a staff or in the clinic, right? And they try again. And every time that they try again, the chances that they're just going to walk out the door and say, you know what, I have to think about this, talk with my spouse, consider it, goes up. And then the hidden secret here is that it's not only the psychology of the person being ashamed or it being too much friction and annoying, it's also that they literally have less of a chance of getting approved every time they get declined and try to apply again, because behind the scenes, the lenders see that they were declined if it's a hard pull. And that means that immediately their chances to get approved are lower. So what we do is we're bringing order into the chaos, where what we are focusing is on the business. We want the business to be able to easily tap into the potential of financing without falling into the traps of using it wrongly and using it in a complex, fragmented, broken manner that basically gives a much more negative impact to their sales process and to their care process than a positive impact that it should be doing. The easiest example after that long explanation is if you have a credit card and you just want to pay for the stuff that you just put to the register and it doesn't pass. Think about that frustration, right? It's that gap of, I can do this, but I can't.
I can't. Yeah. Again, you said you're not a lender. So you guys, Ottri's not a lender. It's a platform. And, you know, in now you spending time in the aesthetic space, Yehuda, you saw 4S, you gave a phenomenal presentation. I'm going to equally go to medical spa show tomorrow and talk about this. What do you think that you're solving? What is Ottri solving in the market today that people really need to embrace and embrace if they want to seize greater opportunity within the practice?
In one sentence, we standardize payment options into one platform and one system under each clinic's brand. So when you walk into an office today, you can see a printed PDF of Care Credit, another one of Cherry, each one with their QR codes. And that's muddying your branding. If you want to be that exclusive premium experience with the champagne at the door and the music and the candles and so on, but then suddenly there's money in your face and that kind of dampens the mood and ruins that experience, right? So here we're giving control of financing to the business. They control the experience, they control the choices, they control the products that they're offering, when and how, and they put it seamlessly into their business.
We talked a lot about the consultation. We talked about treatment plans, as you mentioned, which again is what I'm going to give a 3-hour talk about, right? How do we maximize revenue potential from each person so they have a better outcome, right? Higher retention, more money, more profit, more lifetime value, all the things. How does having something like Ottri, and then we'll dive into it, you guys, how it works, built in, actually change the way, like the conversation? Because I know it. We've worked with over 2,000 practices. And just in Q1, myself and my team, I think we've done 23 physical sales trainings on site. And when I teach this part or have people role play or observe consultations, it's not even part of the conversation a lot of the time. Or it's fragmented, like you said, and I have to go talk to somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with that. I understand surgeons are going to have a patient care coordinator. Some medical spas have, right, somebody else doing the sales on the front end, the back end. But what if it was actually built into the conversation?
I think that's really the secret, right? At the end of the day, I don't need to tell you about the importance of healthy business practices and planned sales processes. Positioning of financing as something that only comes up once you get the initial objection, where you go, a treatment plan is $4,500, and then you just pause and let them take that in and think, oh God, I need to.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or I have to think about this. I got to talk with my spouse. Or you just say, most of our patients prefer to look at flexible payment options. We can go as low as $180 a month, or you can pay the full $4,500. You can take $180 a month for 12 months. I just spoke to a clinic owner in Tucson who said that what she does is she does 6-month treatment plans, and she offers 0 interest 6-month payments to their patients, right? So they're paying it in those 6-month increments. And then the moment they finish paying, it's time for that next treatment plan for the next 6 months. So she has them on this cycle. And basically, it's not only helping with payment and retention, it's helping with loyalty.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I love that. So and I love, you guys, this may be something that you've heard before, but if it's not practiced and adopted and embraced in training, it's always a lack of training is what I really see. What kind of Yehuda just said. He said 4,500 silence. We wait for an objection versus when he said, right, Yehuda, this is fantastic in order to get the outcome that you're looking for and the results that you said you wanted, right? We can get you started on this payment plan for $180 a month. I mean, I'm like, where the fuck do I sign? Which you guys, it can really be that simple. So, moving on to that next price objection, which everyone has a hard time, and then it becomes transactional, and then they wonder why at the end of the month or the end of the year, they're not making enough money. How does multi-lender financing change the dynamic in the consultation room?
So in the consultation room itself, the care coordinator or office manager, whoever's managing that conversation, does not need to start thinking, okay, I'm going to start with Cherry, and then I'm going to go to Care Credit, and then I'm going to, if that fails, right? We are removing from the shoulders of the staff the need to understand financing deeply because the system just works. So the first thing is that they have a tool that they can rely on by sending an application and us doing the heavy lifting of identifying which lender matches which patient. And we do that through a very simple tool of a soft credit pull. So the patient consents, we get their information, and then our platform will route them to the right place. If no lender approves them, then we'll let them know about that, right? But you know that you've tried it all with one single, much better experience. Even then, there are all kinds of solutions as well. So for different payment options where we help the business, for example, 6 months of payments, but we do collections and stuff like that. So it goes beyond proper lending as well. So to add to that, though, it's that you touched upon that so important point of training, right? And the multi-lender platform gives you, the clinic, access to all the lenders on the platform right now and all the lenders that will keep joining, because the more clinics join this movement and are aggregated under this umbrella, the more we can then interest more lenders with better rates, better programs. And with that single platform you're already using and you're already trained on, it goes and evolves and improves, as opposed to a single lender who has you as a locked-in customer and has no incentive to keep fighting for your business.
Yeah. God, that's so important. I mean, I really love it from my perspective too, that I think what you said, right? A PCC or a manager or whoever it is, having to feel the stress. And maybe that's even partly why they don't do it, right? It's a confusing, they have to go sit down. And I read this statistic, and I actually say this about people getting approved prior to them coming in. Statistics show that they're more apt to even spend the money. So I always talk about that on the front end of the funnel, that qualifying experience. So that was going to lead me in. And I think I'd like to dive in at this point before I ask more questions, because I'm sure people are seeing the value. Let's really talk about the difference with Ottri in terms of the platform, so that I think because that is, I think, where the lack of knowledge, like you said, people don't know, right? 0% interest. Do I get the money up front? Do I not? Is it right away? Is it one bank, this bank? It's very confusing. So let's get very specific. And you guys, so my question to Yehuda is, how is Ottri different? Not just that it's a platform, not a lender, but how is it different than anything out there today? Why is this critical for you to actually not ignore this podcast, but call him right away, pay attention? What is going to be the value to your practice?
We'll start with the most crucial and most important point, which is approvals. You have 10 patients walking into your clinic that, as you said, Terri, you acquired, you spent money to get them in the door. And if your patient financing provider is not approving 9 out of 10 at least, then there's a gap that you are now losing money in, right? That leaky bucket. And it's not free, right? So immediately improving your cost of acquisition and your retention and all these really basic metrics is the first and foremost. And the reason we're able to do that is not magic. It's simply because different lenders cater to different bands of the credit spectrum and want different types of customers. And our ability to work with all those lenders means that we give what's called a full credit spectrum coverage, right? A full waterfall. And the credit system is okay, but the fact that you have sometimes a 0 credit score because you just immigrated to the United States does not mean you don't have the cash, but it also doesn't mean you want to pay in cash in full upfront. Maybe you want to spread that for cash flow. So flexible payment options is not only about a poor person who wants a treatment they can't afford. Rather, that's what we prefer not to happen. But there are multiple other positive use cases, like someone who just wants the ability to spread the payment over time and so on. So that's the most important differentiator. And then the branding aspect we spoke about, right? I want to touch upon the control and specifically about what you said about pre-qualification. One of the things we're giving that'll continuously evolve is the ability to really control when and how and where you mention and promote financing. So if you have this as a button on your site, right, that says, hey, you can check before you even walk in our door what the amount is that you will be approved for at a high chance, right? And they consent to that soft pull and they do it then they come in the door knowing that this is an amount that they can afford. And you can plan accordingly. So as you said, that pre-qualification, that flexibility, and we let the business do that the way they want. So they don't need to call us to get a QR code or a link or a button. It's all on the platform. They can do it themselves. They can turn it on or off and decide if it includes the more costly loan products, because very transparently, the platform does not cost anything to use. There's no subscription fee, but just like they're paying clinic fees with their other lenders, right? The same program or the same process happens here. They're paying a fee just like they pay a processing fee for credit card, right? It's the same idea.
Yeah.
So we said the branding, we said the usability and access and control, and we said that full coverage of the waterfall. I can geek out about this and add, 10 more, but I'm not going to bore everyone in an endless pitch.
So let's dive into credit score. That gets brought up a lot. Credit scores, and maybe this is a moot point because it goes out to so many lenders, but credit score, you mentioned soft pull. What is does the practice get the money up front? Let's dive in a little bit deeper into all that.
Perfect. Okay. So all of our lenders are funding the clinic directly. When the loan is approved, that loan is moving to the clinic's account and what's called direct to merchant. And that happens pretty quickly within 24 to 48 hours. And it's that full amount up front. If you're doing a treatment plan, getting that full amount up front for the entire, let's say 6 months that it is very helpful for your cash flow.
Yeah.
Your question was about the direct to merchant, right? About funding?
Well, direct to, yeah. So that sounds like they're getting the money then upfront.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Now let's talk about, so that's amazing, guys. You're getting the money upfront. What about the credit score, the approval?
Okay. Yes, thank you. So before that, just to touch about one thing, which is in the market right now, very roughly, there are 2 types of loan products out there. One is a line of credit, which is like a credit card. That's Care Credit and that's Alpheon. Right? The downside is that they can use this now card anywhere in any other clinic competitors and any businesses that are in the Alphion and or Care Credit network. The installment loan is locked to your clinic, and that's standard across most of the lenders. But that's why most clinics will still be using Care Credit and or Alphion, because if someone walks into the door and waves that card around, you're going to take it. And that's why we're also going to add Care Credit and whoever else wants to join to the platform. We are agnostic to that and letting them come on, because we truly care about the merchant, the clinic, being able to run their business smoothly, right? Now, on the credit score, you have all colors of the rainbow, right? You have lenders that will try to claim that they do everything, and you have lenders that will try to claim that they will do a piece of this and that. But when you look at reality, the moment one business goes under any issue, the lender has some troubles or they're seeing specific issues with, let's say, I'm inventing 580 to 620. So they're going to say, you know what? We don't want to touch that. Okay. And then you're left without any options as a business. Having all those lenders ensures that we bring lenders that are only interested in very specific bands and are very good at servicing that population, so that we're also always able to approve. Now, the important thing to know about approvals is that it's more nuanced. It's not only about, are you approved, yes or no, but how much are you approved for? If you're getting said yes to, but it's for $300 and you need 4,000, then the gap is still there, right? So I always ask these clinic owners first, what are your approval rates, right? But then I also ask, when they're approved, are they approved for that full amount or is it partial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not only approval rates, but it's the approval amount as well. And we're making sure that we have lenders in our portfolio that when they say yes, they will always say yes to that full amount.
Okay. This is, amazing. So now, because I think we've covered a lot about how it works, the value, the difference, the consultation flow. You guys, this just leads right into, retention and rebooking, right? It does. Patients have, but is there anything that you'd like to add there, Yehuda, as it relates to patients coming back, rebooking, knowing they are approved now for this certain amount of money, which is great, but then you have to hope that the provider is doing these treatment plans because, look, I've been to some of the greatest practices, and I say this all with love, and I there are some very successful practices in spite of themselves, where if they were doing it better. And I always say, I'm not here to teach providers how to play the game. I'm here to teach you how to win it. And when there's, an inconsistent process, or it's not formalized, or sometimes there's a fee and sometimes there's not. And then sometimes it's 30 minutes and sometimes it's an hour, right? It's like a mess. And if we could just standardize the process, where the philosophy of a practice is that every patient coming in deserves, it's candidly a disservice. It's not fair to the patient that we don't give a treatment plan. And so, as it relates to that flow we were talking about, is that what you're suggesting? Sort of, if a patient is, approved for X amount of money, this allows that practice to do that?
Totally. I think that at the end of the game, some of the products are a loan at the end of the day, right? So there needs to be some sort of friction to do it responsibly. We don't want to push people into debt, obviously.
Yeah.
But, right, because that also comes to be negative to all sides involved. The idea is to smoothly work it into the flow of the experience that you're planning, right?
Yeah.
And that could be the separation of your promoting financing as a tool to let them know that here in my clinic, as opposed to others, there are those flexible payment options that you need in order to afford this, in order to pay the way you want and plan the rest of your life accordingly, because maybe you need that 4,000 now for something else. But if you start paying 180 a month, then you're able to then recoup it and use it later, right? So to take a step back and answer your original question, the flow, I think, is what is important. The financing just needs to be good enough of a tool to fit seamlessly inside that, right? So think, if I was the owner of a business, I think I would say, what is the experience I want my patient to have from the first time they see my brand to the access of their dream? And where does it make sense to mention the flexible payment option? I've seen successful clinics do it different ways. There's no one, only secret path. But I think that most clinics already now will identify where their payment pain is in the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then you can ask yourself, is it simply changing that sentence and saying most of our patients will start with, will prefer a flexible payment option such as paying over 12 months. That means you can pay as low as $180 a month, and or you can pay the full amount credit card cash, which is $4,500. So you're still mentioning the full price. It's not a sneaky thing to try and screw them over, but it's a matter of giving them the choice and the knowledge that this option exists, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, we're speaking the same language, because I'm going to go back to the statistic when you started with what you just said. Hearing you say it or me say it, it sounds so easy. It almost sounds ludicrous that everybody wouldn't say this, but they don't. And then you have to say, well, why? And then, I spent 16 years in Fortune 500 and in that space. So I guess I can talk about it too, right? Where I was on that side selling injectables and, biotech and capital equipment, and I've done it all. And it's just such a different thing, because what we said, it comes down. You guys, Yehuda, Saitan, Galderma. I mean, there's a million phenomenal organizations and companies and vendors out there, right? But it is only going to be as good as you know how to do it and use it and sell it and talk about it and promote it and educate on it. Like, it doesn't really matter. And you see, I truly get a visceral response because we've helped practices like exponentially, but the only way to help is if you know how. Right? How do I do this? How does it benefit my patient? How does it benefit me? What are my expectations of my team? And then how is it different than, let's call it what it is, perhaps competitors. So what I also love you to now, let's dive into, because you talked about branding, that it's branded to the practice. There's not 5 different brochures and platforms and logins and reports and remembrance of how it works. So this can all be sort of branded and designed to them, yes? How does that work?
Correct. Yeah. So the clinic controls the color and logo that appears on the patient-facing application. And obviously, we're not hiding the identity of the lender that is financing this, and they are very clearly shown throughout the process, but it's living within the envelope and the flow of that clinic. And at the end of the process, they're returned also into the experience that the clinic has planned, as opposed to having a third-party app, an application in the middle of your planned experience, that then has also the interest to retain this patient as their client, and they're trying to battle with you for attention. So the ability to control that story, not only of when you're presenting it, but also what it looks like, right? And the color, the brand, the experience is something that can also really add to that wow factor. So think about it this way, from a loyalty perspective, right? When you have low expectations of something and then it happens really nicely, then that not only gives a very positive experience to the patient, but it also impacts positively your clinic as the business that gave them access to that positive experience. So if you're like, oh shit, sorry, excuse my French, but
well, listen, everybody knows if you don't swear on this podcast, it's almost like something's wrong with you.
And there you go, right? But I'm going to go through this financing hell now, right? Application, yada yada, and suddenly it's like 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm good. That's the goal we're aspiring to reach, right? Where financing is a net positive on your business in every single aspect, in the training and in the implementation, in the customer experience, and so on. But whoever tells you, like you said, right, there's a reason I'm overweight. It's difficult to change. Change is hard and scary. But if you have a business and you want to make it profitable, then change is always necessary. There's no way around it.
So this was phenomenal, Yehuda. And you guys, the tribe, there is another piece to what Ottri offers, but I'm going to save that for another podcast, right? So that we don't get, right? Can muddy the waters here. This is really, really, really exciting. As I mentioned, I think most of you guys know, and if you don't, I have the 4S Summit, which is a business conference with Dr. Renato Saltz and Isaac Muesli, and Yehuda was there. And he got to really experience the crowd. I mean, we have, about, over 80 people attend, and how they resonated with his presentation was just incredible. And so I wanted to have him on here early on. I don't know. We're not even, well, when are we launching? When are we? Yeah. Wow. This is the exciting part, guys.
We're launching in May. So basically, 25, 24 days away.
This is really exciting. So how can the tribe, right? Anybody listening to this podcast, you guys, like I said, this is really important for me because my goal for all of you always is to give back, is to serve, is to support, is to help, is to inform, is to educate, and to help you guys really just build better businesses. So how do people work? How do people work with you, and what does it mean for my tribe?
So I'm assuming that we can put a link in your description of this podcast, and that'll be. Yes. And then they just click that, and you can sign up, fully digital and self-service. But on the other hand, anyone signing up before May will get the concierge treatment with us, contacting, training whoever is interested, beyond only helping them sign up, but also understanding how to implement and use the tool. And we're doing this for the Terri Ross listeners. So that's basically it. Now, because we're not live yet, anyone who does it now will just sign up, and then we will let you know the moment it's live and you can start using it. The beauty is no commitment, no costs to using the software. So keep whatever financing you have. If that scares you dropping it at first, you can use it alongside. Our platform is best when used first, but we'll take your business.
And you guys, so that was great. I love it. Like I think what you said, you're almost making this sort of, risk-free. You're not saying cancel what you have. Yehuda's not saying that, guys. He's just, I hope that we've allowed you to see things a little bit differently, for maybe you guys to take a pause for a moment, maybe even go back and question with your practice manager or whomever, what percent am I using financing? What percent gets denied, right? Let's get clear. I'm a huge proponent. I was like, without data, it's just based on feelings, and feelings are not facts, and it just doesn't work. And so, while we're just into quarter, just ending quarter one, we have a long time left to go in 2026 and beyond. And let's call it what it is. There's a lot of industries flat right now. People still are fighting we're in a very competitive market. So we're fighting, right? We're all fighting for the same pocketbook, and people aren't as loyal, and they're spreading the money around. So you have an opportunity now for a very sophisticated platform. Again, not a lender, going out to multiple lenders, simplicity for the practice, branded towards you. Like I said, there's another section that, for anybody starting a business, needing a loan on the business side, this is going to be significant for you as well. But, how do people perhaps, maybe they're not going to, look, if you guys are ready, like I invite you, go to the site, and you'll give it'll be in the show notes, but are you open if people wanted to reach out to you directly? Like, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. I'm always up for a conversation. So I'm happy to give my email in the notes as well. And you can just shoot me a note, and we can jump on a call. And I'll give you my link to the calendar as well. You can just book a time that is good for you, and we'll jump on that call and talk all day. I love geeking out about this stuff and helping businesses succeed. And I'll just repeat one last thing from the beginning, which is the early adopters are able to be in that gap of the 35% that are currently offering financing and the 89% that want it and need it. If you're early to that game, like you said, Terri, that competitive landscape, you're differentiating yourself.
You guys, I'm going to make this one last statement too. Yehuda and I have got to know each other like the past couple of months. And despite the distance and time, like he's been super supportive of me and Terri Ross Consulting as well. He kicked out this tool for me in Claude in about 4 hours, and I'm like, holy shit. He's a really wicked smart guy. But, this is something that you guys are going to, be super excited, because I am equally, I practice what I preach, and I will equally be using Ottri within TRC, and it'll be something that we are rolling out to you guys as well. So any prospects and potential clients that have a desire to work with us, that's going to be an option too. So we're really excited. Yehuda, thank you so much for taking the time in the middle of the night to just be here. I know you're so passionate about this and all the hard work that you've done, and the research and the diligence and the the commitment to this aesthetic and integrative wellness space. I think you're going to be so successful. I've been very impressed. And I hope that you guys listening, that everything comes from the heart here and with a level of trust and integrity. So I do invite you, reach out to Yehuda. He's amazing. Reach out to us as well. Everything will be in the show notes. And that's it. I'm going to drop the mic, but I love y'all. And if you found this podcast helpful, please, please, please always share it with your colleagues, share it with your friends. Leave me a note. I always want to hear what you guys need from me. And with that said, I will see you on the next episode of In Touch with Terri. Ciao, guys.
Thanks for listening to In Touch with Terri. If you'd like to take your practice further faster, Terri Ross has launched her business and sales mentorship for the first time, and it's available to everyone. No more spending thousands on conferences. Get Terri's expert knowledge for a fraction of the cost. Head over to patreon.com/Terri Ross Consulting and sign up now. We'll have the link in the episode notes to get you in on this groundbreaking offer. This is your chance to get ahead, so don't miss it.